If there is one habit in your life that you can implement to be able to change your life and move your life forward into the direction that you want to take, it has got to be books. Books have been a tremendous value to me and have definitely impacted my life. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 10 self-help books that have changed my life. And I am not exaggerating when I say that some of these books have definitely impacted my life to this day. I'm super excited to share this list with you. And let me be clear before we actually get onto the list that the number one book that has changed my life is the Bible. But Bible itself means collection of books, so we're not talking about that today. We're talking about self-development books, self-help books, and just areas of different disciplines that have improved my life. So I will timestamp them down below, so that way you can kind of skip along to different ones. But if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Yessie. On this channel, we talk about minimalism and slow, intentional living through a holistic lens. So we don't just talk about decluttering and the physical aspect of minimalism, but also the internal stuff that we don't see, the mindset shifts and habit changes to be able to live an abundant, fulfilling life. So if this sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss when I post a new video. I'd love to have you here. And because I cannot bring myself to actually pick my most favorite book, I will place them in order of which one I read first to the latest book. So first up is Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. This book, oh my goodness, it was such a treasure in my life. This is kind of honestly where everything began for me. At that point in time, my husband and I were renting a 3-bed, 2-bath home. We both had debt. We didn't have kids at that time, but I still had a lot of issues to work on. If you've seen my video, my love story, you'll see kind of a little bit of my childhood traumas that I had to kind of work through. And so I had this void within me that I felt the need to fulfill by shopping because it was fun, because it was easy, because it would make me feel pretty, because I thought the next bag, the next pair of shoes, the next dress would make me feel better or would make me more worthy. I had clothes in every single one of those closets. And when I read this book, all of a sudden, everything changed for us. We saw not only that we could live without debt, but how our life could be better if we didn't have debt. And we were so motivated that we started to declutter, we started to sell a lot of things. I got rid of all my collection of purses and shoes and makeup and lots of different things. And I started to love myself more, I became happier, and then because I was happier and I made these changes, I wanted to eat better and I started to exercise, and then I started a YouTube channel because I wanted to show people how decluttering had changed my life, and it just really kind of spiraled into this domino effect. And this is why I say books are a tremendous resource, because it doesn't just change one thing. When you make a positive direction, it kind of changes another thing and another thing. It has this domino effect. And if you have debt, making a plan and actually have actionable tips to help you get there. This next one is one that I actually devoted a full video to, but it was one of my first videos, so it might be a little bit cringeworthy, but nonetheless, the content I still stand by is Crucial Conversations. This book saved my life. And that was actually, I think, the title of that previous video. And if you want to check that out, you can see how it actually did so. But I picked up this book when I worked in ICU, and I worked in a cardiac unit, so we tended to get a lot of the patients that had drug overdoses, which can be a very dangerous situation. A lot of times we would have patients that would kick, punch, yell at us, scream at us, and fling IVs at us. So I really wanted to have a book that would help me tame this. Help me tame my tongue. And I actually watched a video one time of a former FBI agent saying that this is your greatest weapon. It's not what you hold in here, it's this. And I needed that work to be able to learn how to communicate in a calm way under high stress situations. So this book, I definitely recommend it to anybody that wants to improve how they communicate with other people, whether that be in your workplace, if you're trying to gain leadership positions, or if you want to improve your communication with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends. And especially if you're like me, like I was diagnosed with social anxiety at one point. I wasn't exactly the friendliest person, and I would actually like run the other way if I saw like my friend at the grocery store or somewhere where I wasn't used to seeing somebody. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I say? I'm starting to sweat. Where do I do with my hands? Like, body language was not something that came naturally to me, and so definitely communication was something that I struggled with, so this book was definitely helpful. And before I forget, I do want to mention that I have a link for a free 30-day trial of Audible for a free audiobook, yours to keep even if you cancel. So if you want to check out any of the books on this list, you can do so with the link in the description box below. And let me know how you liked it and your own recommendations as well. I'm always up for recommendations. The 5 Languages of Love is a book that I love to give to newlywed couples, but it's honestly not one that I would say is just for people in a romantic relationship. It can definitely help improve your relationship with your family or with your friends, because what it does is it helps you understand how you perceive love and how other people are best receive love as well. So that way you can kind of express love in a way that they understand it, because different people express love differently, whether that be gifts, spending time together, words of affirmation. I definitely have a friend whose love language is words of affirmation, and she like wants me to say, I love you. I'm like, that's a hard thing for me to say. Like, that's not my love language, but okay, I love you. And so understanding that and knowing what her love language is, what my love language is, it has helped improve the friendship as well, because now I understand that she wants to hear praises. She wants to hear good things. She doesn't care about gifts. She doesn't care about a lot of other things, but she really, really, really values words. Positive words, maybe a written letter, something like that. It can be super helpful to help boost that love within your romantic relationship, but also your friendships and just the people you love in general. The Empowered Wife. This one was actually recommended by Maddie. If you haven't seen Madison Gray's channel, I love her work. She has beautiful, beautiful videos on slow living for mothers. And so when she mentioned this book, I thought, okay, well, I'll add it to my list and just check it out later. But once I read it, like I reread it, I gifted it to several people, to married people and people that are not married as well, because I just felt like it was such a gem for my life that I wish I had had it when I was just newly married, or even before I was married, and it would have made a huge, huge difference. My husband and I, we've always been very lovey-dovey people. We've always been very much in love, but I feel like truly I am the one who won the lottery when it comes to our relationship, because he was a very, very patient man, or he still is, but like in the very beginning, I had a lot of insecurities. So I've mentioned, like I struggled with social anxiety. I had a lot of insecurities and I had a lot of childhood wounds that I was still carrying. I still had all this baggage with me. And what that did is that anytime this little thing would come up, those wounds would be triggered immediately. Like I would just be triggered by the slightest little thing and I would blow up, or I would be resentful, or I wouldn't say my needs and then eventually I would blow up. And so this book was eye-opening and made me realize, oh my goodness, even though like we have a happy marriage and a happy relationship, I caught myself repeatedly thinking, oh my gosh, I've done that. Oh, I do that. And not in a good way. Like all these things that you shouldn't do. But what I loved most about this book is that it has practical tips. It's very actionable, practical tips of when this happens, do this, or instead of saying this, say this. So it was very much a practical approach that you could implement into your relationship. And if you're not in a relationship, just to kind of implement the mindset to be able to approach your relationships in a much more positive way. Atomic Habits. I feel like this is probably on everybody's lists, and you've probably heard this before if you've seen like other book recommendations, because this is really kind of like that foundational, like basic step for improving upon other habits. I definitely recommend, if you're like starting a reading habit, start with this one, because this one will help you start other habits and kind of know, again, like actionable tips. Do this, do that. If this is the habit that you're trying to implement, do this. So I loved this book because it was a really easy read and it has actionable tips and steps to help you develop habits. One of the things that can definitely help improve your life is just understanding how habits work, because when you're trying to start to eat better, or start to exercise, or start to read, for example, knowing the best ways that you can implement those habits and those changes in your life will help you to be able to then kind of adopt them as your own new person, rather than just like, oh my gosh, I have to read, I have to exercise, I have to do this. And it will definitely help you to be able to implement those changes in your life and just kind of cascade into lots of other positive changes. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. This one was one that was a really beautiful, calming, relaxing read that really inspired me. If you're struggling with creativity, you feel like you're not creative, or you're wanting to be more creative and just kind of lean more into your creativity, I definitely recommend this book. This one has definitely helped me to see the importance of creativity, and also it really helped me to realize that I was a creative person. It's just that I had kind of pushed it aside. One, because I was so focused on social media for a time that I didn't know what my hobbies were. So I quit social media, I don't even remember if it was like 8-9 years ago. I have to look back honestly, but it was several years ago that I quit all of my social media. I didn't even have a YouTube channel for 3 years. And honestly, the first few months to first couple of years, I thought to myself, what do I like? What am I good at? I don't have any hobbies. I don't have any strengths. I'm not creative. Like, I thought all those things. And I now see that I was so wrong. It was just because I didn't know how to express my creativity because I had pushed it aside for so long. So if you're struggling with being creative, or you're wanting to be a more creative person and express that creativity, I highly recommend this book. This next one is for all my ladies who want to romanticize life and really savor the little things. This is definitely a slow living recommended book. I loved Madame Chic, and Jennifer Scott has other books as well that I highly recommend you just like binge all of them, because they're really fun reads, relaxing reads, And it kind of transported me in time. I felt like I was in Paris and I was learning from all the lessons that she had learned. What it did was it gave me also, again, like actionable tips. I love the books that have like actionable tips, like, okay, do this, do this. I love those kinds of books. And so this had a lot of tips on how to actually romanticize your life, enjoy the little things. And the impact that it had on me was major, because not only was I starting to savor being at home, prepping my meals, all of the little things, little mundane things in life. But the more that I was starting to be more present, the more I was enjoying my days, the more love I gave, the happier I felt, the more confident I was, the more loving I was. Like, it really, I think, changes everything. Once you're more positive, when you're more grateful, when you're more loving, it really brings all of those things right back to you. What book list would I give to you if I did not include The Happiest Man on Earth? This book was a pure gem, and it brought me a roller coaster of emotions. I laughed, I cried, I had shivers on my skin. This book was written from a Holocaust survivor, and it talks about his pain, his difficulties, and all the hardships that he endured. But then at the same time, his love, his zeal for life, his positivity, like his just positive energy just radiates through that book. And to me, it kind of brought it back to my own life and made me think, I need to be more grateful. I need to really savor the things that I have, because honestly, like, we take things for granted sometimes. We have this life and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we forget that. And me, like, I grew up poor in Mexico, so I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to have one shirt to wear. But honestly, like, living here in the US, I forget that all the time. When I go back to Mexico, I'm reminded, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for my comfy pillows and my warm water. And I forget that. I forget to be grateful. I forget where I came from. I forget that I don't have all of this granted, that anything could change in an instant, and I need to be grateful for today and live today with zeal and passion. That is definitely the way that I want to live my life. It's not that I live that perfectly. I absolutely strive to romanticize life and just live with passion. Like, I would love to die and say, there went that girl that lived passionately, that every single day she loved and she savored life. Is it the way that I always live? No. I often drown myself in a cup of water, as they say. I highly recommend it. If you just want some more positivity in your life, you feel like things aren't going right for you, you want something to kind of encourage you, I highly, highly recommend it. Ryan Holiday's Ego is the Enemy. We can tend to fall for allowing our ego to self-sabotage. And it can be in different ways. It doesn't mean that you think that you're like the best person and like you're the most successful, even though that can happen. When we are accomplishing success and we're doing things, then we can fall and be blinded by that success. It can happen. And so I want to be aware of that. But then also, like, our ego can get in the way because it doesn't allow us to try. Those insecurities, this was a hard lesson for me, because I had, like I said, social anxiety. I had all these issues and insecurities. That was my ego. That was my ego, worrying about what other people would think, worrying that other people would reject me. That was ego. Ego didn't allow me to try the things that I wanted to try out for those things and projects and things that I wanted to do, because I was afraid of the result. And so I want to be aware of those things, not to torment myself or guilt myself, but just be aware, and being aware of my own mindset traps and being aware of how I self-sabotage. The way the world describes success is having things and accomplishing and achieving things. And I've definitely implemented a different definition of success. For me, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I love that definition because it means that if you're working towards something, you are successful. It doesn't mean that if I have a certain number in my bank account, I'm successful, or that if I accomplish certain numbers or I have certain things, then I'm successful. So I don't want to be blinded by success, but at the same time, I need to realize that I am just as human as anybody else, and that I can fall, and that I probably will fall. I will make mistakes. It's just a matter of time because I'm human. I'm not a robot. Robots probably make mistakes too. But anyways, and last but not least, 4,000 Weeks. This one is one that definitely resonated with me. It might be for like the more sciencey, nerdy people because it's kind of a more elaborate read, so it might not be for everybody. I definitely resonated with this, and especially with my background as a hospice nurse, because it really talks about how time is really a construct of the human mind, and how we approach time and how we take time for granted, and how too sometimes we feel pushed by time. We feel like our time is running out and I haven't accomplished anything, and I haven't had babies yet, I haven't built this business yet, I haven't done anything with my life yet. So time can really hinder us, or our perception of time can hinder us. Whether that means that we feel like our time is running out and we haven't done XYZ, or we feel like our time is forever and we're not appreciating our time that we have on this earth. And so I definitely recommend this, especially if you're kind of a little bit nerdy and you want to know like a little bit about the sciencey part about time and appreciating life and just time management sort of thing. I loved this book. Honestly, one of the biggest lessons that I have taken from hospice is just the value of my time, that I have so much more to give and that it's so much more to live, that there's more that I want to do with my life. The experience of working with people at end stages of life and being faced with death constantly really honestly taught me to live and savor and enjoy my life and realize that I have value. You have value. I don't know you, but right behind the screen, I know there is a human that is unique and different than anybody else in the world. You are no accident. There's nobody else like you. There was nobody else like you. There will never be anybody else exactly like you. So you are no accident. You have value. You have dignity. You have worth. Learn, grow, improve your life little by little. Don't beat yourself down if you feel like you're not making progress. Every little step will lead to another little step. And so just one step at a time, day after day, and you'll see that those little changes will make a huge impact along the way. All of these books that I mentioned, I say they've changed my life, they've improved my life, but it's not like it was a night and day. It wasn't overnight. It was a progressive change. It was one change that changed my mindset a little bit, led to another change that changed my mindset a little bit, and then led to another change. And so it's that accumulation. It's not just gonna be, you're gonna do something and then change your life tomorrow. I've seen those videos, they're like, be a different person overnight. I'm like, no, because you have to address this, you have to address this. And so hopefully you will love this list as much as I do. Let me know if you've read any of these books and give me your own book recommendations. I will definitely add them to my list because a lot of these have been recommended by other people, so I appreciate that a lot. And don't forget to claim that free 30-day trial for Audible with a free audiobook, yours to keep, even if you cancel. You can check that down in the description box below as well. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.